Hello, everyone. I'm here today to talk to you about the importance of customer experience. My name is Steve Flanders. I am on the Log Insight team at VMware, and I am responsible and run the customer-oriented R&D group, or CORD group, which is why I wanted to do this talk on customer experience. My background's actually in operations, but if you take a look at my Twitter and my blog, I have a lot of good information on Log Insight if you are interested. This talk will be kind of non-specific to Log Insight, though I will use an example at the end. So where this all came from was people would ask me, well, what are you actually doing? You run the customer-oriented R&D group. What does that actually mean? And I was like, all right, well, let me try to explain it to you in 2 words. Customer experience. Basically, our team owns customer experience for Log Insight. We want to ensure that customers have the best experience when using Log Insight. Well, then the next logical question is, well, what is customer experience? And, well, before I actually talk about that, how about a quick quote? You've got to start with the customer experience and work back with the technology, Steve Jobs. This is the approach that Log Insight took with the product, ease of use, usability. I'm going to touch on some of these key topics in a second, but this is what my team seeks to do. And so we do that by actually breaking down customer experience into a variety of different pieces. The first, and usually what most people think of when they think of customer experience, is user experience. And most people think of user experience, think of UI. And user experience is way more than UI. In fact, this is a very complicated chart that tells you all the different things that user experience could be. But I think the first line here kind of sums it up. User experience is how a person feels when interfacing with the system. Now, this could be the UI. The UI is definitely part of user experience, but it's not the only part of user experience. And before you even have a UI, you have to have mock-ups and design. You have to be solving a business problem. You have to be introducing the right technology, and you have to make it easy to use. All of this gets complicated, and you need to simplify it so that your system can be leveraged properly. So, customer experience is user experience. Customer experience is usability, which is different than user experience. And I think the bold parts here kind of tell you effectiveness, efficiency, and satisfaction. That's really what you want when you're leveraging a product. It doesn't matter what problem you're trying to solve. You want to do it quickly, you want to do it easily, and it needs to meet the needs of the problem that you're seeking. Not only that, but it needs to be easy to use, which is sort of like usability, and it's part of UI, but it's really its own thing. And it's kind of 3 different things merged together. That's how simple it is, how consistent it is, and how performant it is. I actually like to highlight consistent for a minute. A product might be very easy to use, but when you switch to different contexts or different views, it may look different. That makes your life harder. That actually reduces the customer experience. It reduces the user experience. So you have to meet that sweet spot of not only is it easy to use, you have the same environment, it looks the same no matter what you're trying to do, but it still meets the performance, the scale, and all the actual technical problems that you're trying to solve. Customer experience is social media. It doesn't actually have to be the product itself. It's what others think of your product and how they're talking about your product. Now, social media might be Twitter, might be Facebook. It could be blogs. It could also be forums. That is part of customer experience. What are they saying about your product? Do they like it? Is it easy to use? This isn't to say that you don't have bugs or people aren't reporting ways that you can have best practices or reference architectures. That's fine. But do they like it? Would they recommend it to others? Are they saying, hey, you should really take a look at this? Or are they saying, well, maybe you should avoid this? And if they're saying that you need to avoid it, then it's probably not the best customer experience. Or maybe it is, but it's not solving the problems that they need. Or maybe it costs too much. There could be a variety of factors here, but customer experience is one of the biggest driving factors. And this is inside the product, it's outside of the product, it's inside of your organization and company, it's outside of your organization and company, it's across peers, it's really the whole gamut. Now, why is customer experience important? I was doing some quick Google searches trying to find a good slide here, and I came across this wealth management organization. I took the name out, but if you do a Google search, you can probably find this. And they had a PowerPoint slide, this exact image that I took, on why customer experience will be important for the future success of their organization. It's really long. I'm not sure if you've read all of it yet, but maybe you didn't get the point of what customer experience even is. All right, how about this? How about 70% customers buy based on feelings, 91% of unhappy customers will not return, and 86% will quit due to a bad user experience? I think that stands out. That's very easy to read. Just in a PowerPoint slide, what do you think about the user experience of the first slide versus the second? I think I'm going to take the second, right? Your product needs to be easy to use. You need to be able to digest information quickly and easily. It needs to be visually appealing. Simple, consistent, performant, usability, ease of use. These are all key concepts, and it's very easy to demonstrate even in PowerPoint slides. If it's too busy, if you have to read a whole bunch of text, you kind of lose people's interest. Okay, now how can you improve user experience, customer experience, usability, ease of use, all of it? Well, first you need to listen. What are your customers asking for? What problems do they need solved and how? What tools are they currently using? How are they solving those problems today? Now, this could be feature requests, but at the end of the day, it becomes business requirements. You need to listen to what everyone wants to do and then figure out how you can make it simple and easy for them to achieve it. Next, you need to do some amount of mock-ups, and you need to show these to customers and then ask them if you actually heard them correctly. Is this what you want? Is this solving the problem that you have? Is this easy to use? Does it provide the features and functionality that you care about? Yes, great. No, well, maybe we should go back to the drawing board. Do I need to add something? Do I need to remove something? We can figure that out before we start developing it. That's kind of key. Next, how about an agile development cycle? Waterfall is not going to work here. You need to iterate, and you need to iterate quickly. Requirements change. Depends on who your customer base is, how big it is, how many people you're actually asking. So iterate, test, get something out there. Are you done? Well, it depends on if you've met all the needs. If not, repeat. How quickly can you release this? How quickly can you get feedback? Maybe that's tech previews. Maybe that's betas. Maybe that's actually GA releases very, very quickly if you're in a SaaS offering. There's a variety of different ways of attacking this. Don't have inconsistencies. Like I mentioned, if you have two different views in your product and they look very much different, they can't be used the same way, they have a different query interface. If you're looking at a logging tool, or visually you have text in one and visualizations in the other, that makes it hard to use. It needs to be the same. When you add a new feature, a new piece of functionality, it should integrate seamlessly with your existing product and application. If it doesn't, probably time to go back to the drawing board. And then finally, we all understand that there's user experience, what the user actually sees, and then there's the complicated back end of how it actually works. It doesn't matter how complicated your back end is. That's a development problem. But at the end of the day, what the customer should see is the interface and then magic. Everything should happen for them. They shouldn't have to worry about how it actually talks to one another, how you configure it, how you run it. The software should be handling that for you. So let me actually give you a real example using Log Insight, since I'm from the Log Insight team, of how we have improved customer experience with one feature. So we introduced Scale Out in Log Insight 2.0. We had a cluster. And in order for this to work, you actually needed a load balancer. And in 2.0, we said use an external load balancer. Now, I'm going to pick on F5, but this is applicable to any load balancer. We tested a variety of them, including VCNS, F5, Riverbed. There's a bunch of them out there. So clearly, you need to manage the F5. That's usually your networking team handling that for you. So we'll just skip this for a second. But let's talk about actually configuring it to work for a cluster. First up, I have to define all of my nodes. Okay, so there's a few steps here to make that happen. And let's just say there's 6 steps here, there's 6 bullets, and then I have to multiply those steps by the number of nodes in my cluster. So I'll use a 6-node Log Insight cluster. 6 times 6 is 36. Okay, 36 steps to configure nodes. Great, next. We need to create a pool, and the pool is what the nodes go into. All right, well, that's a bunch of steps too. This is a little bit more complicated of a formula because you do have to do some steps for every single node and some things more generically. But net result is creating the pool for a 6-node cluster is another 49 steps. Okay, great. We're not done yet, though. We need a VIP, or a virtual server, that will serve these pools. And because we have different VIPs, one for query, on web traffic for 80, and then also for 443. We have ingestion for syslog. There's 3 different ports there. We have Log Insight's ingestion API. Okay, so that's 11 steps, 11 bullets here, and you need 5 different virtual servers. That's 55 steps. That's a lot of steps. I don't know if you kept count, but that's a ton. Now, let's look at Log Insight for a second. I'm on the cluster page here. If you look at the bottom, it says configuration.
hit the checkbox, enable high availability. And it says, give me an IP address for your VIP. Enter your IP address and hit save. I'm done. 140 steps for an external load balancer, 3 steps for an integrated load balancer. Which one do you want to use? Customer experience improved. Not only that, but we get a whole bunch of other benefits as well. Not only is the configuration easy, but I get to not have to rely on my networking team. I'm not paying for another license. I don't have another external third-party software. I have support end-to-end from VMware. It's now built into the LogInsight appliance. While load balancers are really good at balancing web traffic, they're actually not very good at balancing syslog traffic. Well, our integrated load balancer will balance layer 4 and layer 7 traffic for you automatically. Try configuring layer 7 syslog message-based load balancing on F5. We are already at 140 steps. It's way more than that to get the layer 7 capability. So, long story short, what we did is we took something that was really, really complicated, and we did magic. The customer doesn't need to know how complicated it is behind the scenes. Our software actually masks that for them. We're still doing all those complicated steps behind the scenes for them, but all they have to do is enable it, enter a VIP, and hit save, and they're done. This makes customers happy. That's what we want. We want happy customers. We want them to use the product. We want them to enjoy the product. We want them to have the best experience with the product. That was just one example. There are several ways that any product out there could benefit from having a great customer experience. Thank you.